to our community team that did join us on our home visits this summer. But took us about 2.5 weeks. And so I want to thank Mr. Calderon, our school district's commissioner and board member, and then Superintendent Jean Strickland, Police Chief John Ortolano, along with other police officers from the Hobbs PD, Arturo de la Cruz from Environmental, my assistant principal Araceli Armendariz, and Patty Maynor, who is our community schools coordinator. So when my first year being principal, Mr. Calderon and I were talking, and over 20 years ago, I was an assistant at Southern Heights, and I know that he and Mr. Jimenez, Joe Jimenez, who was the principal at the time, they did these home visits, and I just thought that it was, really amazing, really neat, not knowing that 20-something years later, we'd be doing it together as well. And it's just become a part of our community schools. So it's part of our initiatives. And so, we hope to continue, summers from now on. And our group has grown, because in the beginning it was Mr. Calderon, myself, and Mr. Parks had joined us. And then we had Officer Dunlap join us as well. And then Lupa came on as my assistant. And so slowly it's grown a little bit, and we've been able to, visit parents outside of the school walls, and just make that connection, and just let them know that the community, is interested in our school district, and that we're there for, whatever we can help with. So we talked about our community school initiatives. We also distributed some surveys for our community school. We talked about our new school building, the layout. And as Mr. Calderon had mentioned, we asked questions if they have any concerns with the school, the police department, the city. And they, again, we mentioned, what the components of becoming a community school is, and how that partnership, is created with our community members. And it was just good to see the kids' reactions when the principal and the police officers show up at their house. At first the parents are a little leery, but they ease up and they open up. And so I think that it's a really good thing, and I encourage other schools and other commissioners to do the same.
They see somebody with a gun, the look on their face.
Uh-oh.
And tell, what grades did we do?
We did the kindergartners going into first grade, and we did the fourth graders going into fifth grade. So initially, years back, we just did fourth graders going into fifth grade. But as a part of our community schools team, we did discuss that they're the ones that will be with us the longest. So we went ahead and did those grades as well. Ms. Armendariz, you want to add to?
I just met this young lady, and she's sharp too. Oh, by the way, I had Miss Salinas years ago in class, so I'm real proud of that. So.
Good evening, Mr. President and members of the board. I'm Araceli Armendariz, the assistant principal at Southern Heights. These home visits were very special for me because last year was my first year at Southern Heights. So it was a rough year not knowing the families and the students. And I think it was a wonderful opportunity for me to get to know the families and the students. I think the families were very welcoming. They were excited to see us. It was important for us to start this relationship with these families that are the kindergartners coming in, and making sure that they knew that it was going to be a team effort, that we cared about their students coming in, that we were going to do the most that we could for them, and that we were going to work as a team to make sure that they were going to be successful. They were all very welcoming while we were there. I also want to thank our team that was there. We were able to answer some questions for them. But more than anything, we were able to just put the community out there for them at an arm's length reach, to be able to say, we're here for you. We want to work together with you. So I appreciated the opportunity. I think it was very beneficial for our students. Parents have come in already to ask about some of the conversations that we had with them, with abriendo puertas, with giving them an opportunity to join us for different initiatives that we have for our community schools. And it was a perfect time to have those conversations with them one-on-one, with it being at their home and them knowing that we were willing to take those long walks in the heat and make the effort to put ourselves out there for them. So it was, like Mr. Calderon said, it was all positive, and I too look forward to doing this again next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we did just a couple of 9 or 10 homes. The first time we went out, I was nearly killing Diana because of the heat. I can take the heat, and my wife is the same way. She can't take the heat, so that's why it took a little bit that long. This suburban driver.
So, Mr. President, members of the board, good evening. I think the ladies have summed up, the goal and the purposes of our home visits. And I'm the data girl, so I'm just gonna give you the data for my home visits at Will Rogers. I'm the principal at Will Rogers. My name is Lupe Saldaña. And we had 28 responses of the 57 homes that we visited. So 28 people opened up their home to us. We visited fourth and fifth grade students. 100% of the feedback was positive. Some of the topics that our parents had questions on range from special ed services, and then feedback on how much they enjoyed summer school. I think that was one of the biggest feedback that we got. We love summer school and they're so excited to go back to regular school. Some parents had questions about, bullying in school. So really it was an opportunity for parents to ask questions, even though their feedback about what we're doing was positive. The city and the police department got some feedback. Some parents mentioned that, their homes had been broken into, but they didn't call the police. So the chief was able to address that issue with them. So we really were a team addressing their concerns at the moment. And so it just gave me an opportunity to meet the families of my school community. And so I just wanted to share that with you all.
Thank you, Ms.
And
Saldaña.
you're welcome for my wonderful driving experience. I knew when I picked him up, he just had this look, and I told the chief, watch, he's gonna say, I can't have a woman drive me. But you know what? He did
And I
wonderful.
told you that's me. I don't let my wife drive.
So I just, pushed his boundaries this summer. Thank you.
But one thing, you can turn in the middle of the street. We're with the chief, so we won't get in trouble.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief. And you're last, Mr. Strickland.
Thank you,
How
Mr.
are you,
President, members of the board. It was great to walk around Commissioner Calderon again. We do it for a couple of reasons, the police department, because frequently families and children, they don't see police officers on a one-on-one basis unless it's a call for service. With us being there, check on their well-being, get direct feedback from them. It gave me direct contact for problems that are going on that may have been filtered or they felt it wasn't important enough to report. I can tell you that every single item that was brought to my attention that was an actionable item, either by the police department or code enforcement, we took action on. Sometimes things were items beyond our control that we couldn't do anything about. But this was also the first year that we had code enforcement be part of the police department. They were transferred under my command roughly the end of January, beginning of February. And it was refreshing to bring the code enforcement folks with us because I didn't have to call someone if it was a code enforcement issue. We had literally someone 2 feet away that could take the notes and take direct action on that. And also, it was a great experience to be walking in the neighborhoods, because I tell my police officers, you get a different experience driving around a neighborhood than you do walking through a neighborhood. And I express to the police officers, whenever possible, get out and walk, get out and talk. And if it's something I'm doing as a chief of police that I find is important, it's important enough that they have to do it as well. And that's basically why I'm out there and what we're doing. And Commissioner Calderon and Board Member Calderon said, it was extremely positive to hear all the positive things that the community says about the school system, says about the city, and says about the police department. It's great to work in a community where everybody is getting along in a positive manner, as opposed to throwing stones and being violent or just saying a bunch of bad things. Everything that was presented to us was very positive, and if they desired some change, they presented it in a professional manner to us, which is very appreciated.
I don't stay there for a second, Chief. I don't want to embarrass the chief, but first house we went, the neighbors were having a problem. And we heard one side of the story, and then a couple of days later, we went to the other house. And I introduced them as a chief, but I guess they weren't listening because they were just concerned about their problem. So the husband could speak decent English. We translated for his wife, and then the daughter got in the mix. So it was kind of a mixed deal right there. And they kept saying, you need to tell the chief, you need to tell the chief. And he sat there very humbly. And he said, well, I'm the chief. So, and then the reaction that like when they knew that the superintendent came to the schools, I mean, to the homes, and then that you were there, the chief of police came to our house. So it's, and again, chief, I thank you for all you've done for us
It was
too.
an honor, sir.
He's the one that, and you know, these guys are the ones that take the brunt because they have to go cut down the weeds. You have this, you have that, broken down cars. So
Good evening, guys. My name is Art Dela Cruz, and first of all, I do want to thank Commissioner Calderon for allowing us to, do the walk. It was a great opportunity for myself and my code officers. But just let me back up. I can't wing it like Chief can, so I'm reading it. For the code officers to get out and visit with our citizens and get feedback on any concerns in their neighborhood. We learned that some of the citizens were concerned with calling in their neighbors in regards to violations. We advised them that they would remain anonymous. While walking the neighborhoods, we were able to have a better perspective of violations in certain areas. We were able to educate those that had questions about city code ordinances. And overall, the neighborhood walk for code was a success. And Mr. Calderon, we are ready to do it next year. Allowed by the chief, but what I saw is it's amazing how somebody takes, the different ways people value their home. As we're walking, we actually would see the one that's immaculate and where they're next door, they're having to live next to, a house with weeds that are 3 foot tall. And those are the ones that, they were scared for retaliation. We had to let them know they'll remain anonymous.
but your
It was
job,
great.
your job
It
is
was a
tough.
great deal. We had people who had concerns with trash, and sidewalks, and we did get it to the proper people. It was great.
Thank you, Art. Little chief.
Yeah, and to echo a lot of the same comments, it was really an honor to be able to go as a group and have that group assemble together, ask the questions. The principals made that initial contact and really introduced themselves to a lot of the parents and shared with them the intent. It was, again, it was an honor to be able to meet our community where they were, of expecting them to come to us. I'll remember this story and this experience probably for the rest of my life. But one of the homes that we visited, they were not there, but we did make contact with a parent who was across the street who had not scheduled to go visit. And so the principals started visiting with the mother, and then the father was there. They were remodeling a home, and long story short, the dad that was there was a student of Mr. Calderon's when he immigrated to America and spoke no English. But because of the efforts of Mr. Calderon, that many years ago, was able to obtain a high school diploma, spoke very good English, was gainfully employed, and was excited about his kids being a Hobbs Eagle. I can't tell you how much he appreciated Mr. Calderon and his efforts when he was a student. And so the impression that left on me is at no point should we ever underestimate our impact. Because while we may not see the direct result of it immediately, but those impacts are lasting impacts. Stick with kids for the rest of their lives. And it's my charge that our students are giving the opportunity to experience those impacts, have those experiences to make their life a better life. And so I'm thankful for the opportunity. I look forward to doing more of it next summer, where my schedule's not as crazy as it was. I look forward to it. It's absolutely a good experience.
In closing, real quick, because we got some things to do. If you read the newspaper today, people from the 60s, teachers that were here. I came in 71, and I was honored to teach with, I was 28 years old. I'm 79 now. But I was honored to work with those people there because like, like Mr. Strickland was saying, they were my mentors. They didn't realize it, but they were my mentors because I watched the way they taught and I wanted to be like them. And I won't go into the long story, but it was a good story. And you guys you probably had some of those teachers too, Gary, and then you worked for the schools too. So you were there, Peggy. So anyway, thank you guys for presentation. I really appreciate you guys. And sorry but we had to do this presentation because we were excited because of what we did this summer. Okay. It's yours.
Thank you again. Yes, it's always good to have good news.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members. My name is Rebecca Hicks. I'm a parent of 3. I have an issue about the kids. I have 2 middle school boys and a high school daughter. And I had an issue about the kids and lockers. Because I had seen numerous kids bearing the weight of their backpacks on their shoulders and backs. And I spoke with numerous parents who were dealing with the same issue as I was having of my kids coming home, complaining of the back pain and of carrying their books or not books, but notebooks and binders and laptops all day long. And I spoke with several people already, and I spoke with Mr. Strickland, and I'm hoping to get it changed to where every student gets the opportunity of having a locker. I did have an issue with one of the school principals to where finally my 2 sons do have a locker because they do have back issues, as I do. But I want the same opportunity for every student, not just special needs students or students that have, back pain issues or something, but every student should have that opportunity. And that's what I'm fighting for. And I want the board to be aware of this issue. It's not just a problem for me, but numerous parents had the same issue. And when I brought it to Facebook on Hubs 411, it was a major issue that I didn't know it was just my problem. I was shocked at the number of parents I spoke with who were worried. And even elementary school parents had the same issue of their little ones. So I wanted the board members to know of the issues so we can bring the opportunity to every student and not just kids with the parents have to call and argue with the principals to get a locker like I had to do. They shouldn't have to keep calling and requesting it. It should be a mandatory thing where these kids be issued a locker. Whether they use it or not, that opportunity should be available to these kids. And that's all I wanted to bring. Thank you.
I'm aware of the lockers that have not been issued. I don't know if everybody else is, but I know the reason why. I don't know if you want to expound upon that.
Mr. President, I appreciate your comment. As we're all in the middle of what we're in the middle of,
Mhm.
I think it's all fairly well aware that education doesn't happen the same way it happened
Mhm.
years ago. And so as we've moved forward, even pre-COVID, many of our campuses did not require students to have a locker. And I think you become aware of that. So moving forward through last year, students were not allowed to have a locker. That was part of COVID protocol issued to us by the public education department. And so moving into this school year, some of our campuses elected to not issue lockers, part of campus practice, and by you calling and really asking the question of are they available, we were able to make that shift. Those students are able to have a locker assigned to them. those that wish one. In terms of requiring a student to be issued a locker, what we found in those occurrences, a very small percentage of our students have a locker issued to them and they use it. So while it may be convenient for them to be assigned one, it ends up being another thing that they feel like they have to keep up with. Trying to make life easier on them as well by not issuing a locker. They want one available to them. It actually provides greater flexibility to where their locker is assigned.
And they make it known to these students that they are available. Because a lot of the students don't know that they have that option.
I can follow up with that and make sure that those have paid that.
You know, when Mrs. Hicks called me, I immediately called Mr. Hillcrest and Gilchrist. I'm saying Gilchrist. And one afternoon, he called me back the next day with a solution, told him some of the things that we've done in the past, not totally aware of the state mandate. You can't do social distancing, but we have to keep them moving. You can't have the loitering in the halls. And I told her that, I said, well, Mr. Gilchrist, maybe it needs to be announced that if they do that, then you take away the privilege.
Yep.
Because you can't have that. I said, at one time, we had the teachers at the end of the class go stand in the doorway.
Yep.
Wasn't about the COVID at the time, it was about the fighting. And they were just loitering in the hall, so we had to have their presence there to make the kids move on and not do that. And I said, you know, we have special issues. And I totally do. I was
Yep.
to tears by the time I called Mr. Strickland. I said, you know what? I don't sleep a lot. Sometimes Mr. Hillcrest called me that morning with a solution
Mhm.
that he could take care of those. And he told me about the other parents. I said, you know what? All parents have to do is call us. If they've got an issue, hey, they call us, we can handle it. You had kids trying to be out at the football field practicing and trying to get to the 100 wing. We have all kinds of issues that if they are made aware of it, I promise you, they will try and take care of it. And Mrs. Hicks called me back and she said, even Mr. Strickland called me back and said, you know, we're gonna do it. And so I'm just here to say that, you know what I mean? You tell us that there's a problem or your child is having a problem. Sometimes it may not be for some or all, or like I say, if we can do it, we can. But guys, there's no way to social distance right now. But her little one, she said, one of them had a backpack in the front and then the back, you know what I mean, trying to
My daughter,
weigh out the weight of the books. And so, you know what I mean, we do have problems and they do have needs, but I promise you, I don't know of anybody in our school district that you don't tell them what the problem is with a particular child, that we don't try to do something about it. But I do appreciate you coming and sharing that, you know, with the
and
board.
Miss Jones knows I'm a very involved parent when it comes to schools.
That brings up a good thing for me. You know, 411 and Facebook can't solve the problems.
No.
These guys can, though. Administration can. So just remember
And I
that before
did
you
that
start
just to
beating
make
us
it
up.
aware to the parents of an issue.
Yeah.
And I realized how many parents were having the same issue.
Mhm.
And that's why I brought the issue, and I had called Mr. Strickland, I was waiting for his call back. And that's why I let him know, look, there are so many parents having the same issue. Can we have something done?
Thank you for doing that.
Oh.
That's how we get it fixed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Amy Lee. First of all, I want to say thank you for doing the prayer and the pledge. I appreciate that immensely. But something that's been brought to my attention, and I have a question. I need to know if this is a fact. I don't have kids in school anymore. I have grandkids, but I was made aware of the fact that since things have changed with our current president, that if in this school district, if a boy says he wants to be a girl, he's allowed to use the girls' restrooms or vice versa, and that you guys, that they have to let him. True? Not true? I have a
Go ahead,
huge
yeah.
issue if it's true.
Mr. President, Ms. Lee, thanks for raising the question.
Mhm.
I will offer some clarification in that it had nothing to do with the presidential election.
No, but it has to do with the fact that.
Hold on. I'm answering your question.
Mhm,
Okay, the policy practice,
mhm,
federal government put in place
Mhm.
roughly 4 years ago.
Mhm.
Our practice in Hobbs Municipal Schools does not allow that.
Thank you.
What we do provide
Mhm.
is for those students who identify as the opposite sex, we provide
Mhm.
a private restroom for them.
Okay,
Okay?
as long as they're not going into the girls' bathroom, girls' locker room, boys' locker room, whatever, vice versa.
And I
I mean, I guess, but where's the line? Where is it? And I'm not saying it's just because of an administration change, but it wasn't an issue until now. I mean,
Well, actually, it was
correct?
an issue in.
But I'm just
2019,
saying, but
yeah.
but you know what I'm saying?
Right,
It
I
didn't
agree.
become a thing where you're gonna let me. I'm a boy today. What are you gonna do? You're gonna stop me? That's the thing. And to me, it is incredibly dangerous. So what if that student comes and says, I don't want that private restroom? Then what? What do you say?
They're not gonna pee on themselves, Lee, I promise you.
I don't care if they pee on themselves or not. That's not the point.
We do.
I don't
I'm just trying to
want
say
a
we
boy.
Give them an out. We give them.
I know you do, and I'm not saying you don't. I'm just saying, there's gonna be that, you're gonna face it. There's gonna be that kid who's defiant and says, I don't want that. I wanna go in the girls' bathroom. I wanna go in the boys'.
He's a boy and he wants to go to the.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, say, I'm a girl, I'm a boy today. I
30.
wanna be.
30 years, no problem. 30 years. We do have a kid, all of a sudden, they're just trying to be defiant.
Yeah.
And not be a team player, not wanting to come to school.
Mhm.
And in all the years that we've ever had any kids that they really haven't had a problem.
Mhm.
Like I said, if they do, we've had some of them, the bathroom was a little bit too far.
I don't
Because
care.
they can get a hall pass.
Mhm.
If
I
the
just don't
bath-
run into the issue of some girl being hurt or some boy being accused of something he didn't do.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because those are real issues. I've seen it happen. And I have grandkids and what's going on today breaks my heart. I can't hardly stand to see what these kids deal with. It is not their fault. We had to be responsible. God gives us the obligation and the responsibility to make sure that they're all taken care of. And it's hard, and I understand that because I have children in my home and I have for almost 30 years. Every single day, I do this every day. It's my career. So I know and I understand. But at the same time, we have to hold the standard regardless of who's going to get mad at us, regardless of what higher ups say, regardless of what, if you know it's wrong, then you got to say no. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jordan Lee. For a moment, I just want to take politics out of the conversation and talk to you guys as all of us being Americans in America. We have freedom to choose what's best for our individual selves, our homes, and our families. Everyone says that we want to follow the science. So if we do follow science, we have 99.9% chance of recovery depending on issues, no issue. I mean, we see how broad it can be. For anybody, it's all different. Mandates are not laws. As Americans, whatever you want to do is your choice. You can't mandate children to wear masks that makes them feel intimidated and for some not safe. You cannot mandate or enforce mandates that on experimental drugs, which is what the vaccine is considered at this moment. Separating vaccinated and non-vaccinated is showing discrimination at its finest. Under HIPAA, you can't ask me what my medical exemptions are, and I can't ask you. The fact is that we will always have COVID. COVID will be here forever. It's going to mutate. It's going to go. However, it's going to. What will you do when what we're already doing isn't enough and it still isn't good enough for what they want? And what are we going to do when you do get the courage and you say, you know what, if funding is dropped because I'm deciding to do what's right? I personally know people that will fund the schools. I know businesses, I know partners, I know people that will do that for us. So my question is just without politics, without the games, just people, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever. When is enough enough? And where will we draw the line? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline Candia. I'm a junior this year at Outside. And my question is, because I know that the schools are closed down tomorrow for cleaning, and I'm in marching band, and I know that there's sports and stuff going on. And what if we don't pass the cleaning inspection? Like, I know that the sports and stuff, they're working really hard right now to go and play the game that they love and everything. And marching band is the same thing. The same thing as them because we perform for them, like we put on a show for them. And what will happen if we get pushed back? Like, I know that if we don't pass, like if the DOH doesn't approve of the cleaning tomorrow, what will happen? Like, will we be shut down longer? Will we close the school down for another school year? Anything? Like, that's my concern.
Gets everybody's concern, and I don't know if we can answer those questions yet. Have you heard back?
I-
Dee?
Mr. President, I literally have my email open, hoping to get an email. It was Jacqueline.
Yes, sir.
Jacqueline, thanks for coming. And I want you to know that that's my same concern. Okay. The plan that we proposed was to maximize you, every single one of your classmates, be on campus. As long as that's possible. Plan that we proposed does go against the current toolkit. The current toolkit calls that we're to sit out for 14 days. I got a call this afternoon that our public education department requested that we put a plan together that would maximize in-person instruction. Given the last few months, that's a huge win. They called and asked for our plan. So we sat down as staff this afternoon, Mrs. Uriatis included, put together that plan that would minimize the amount of time you all were out of school. Right now, that plan is one full day. We made it very clear that our activities that were scheduled for today would go on as planned. And all activities for tomorrow, all practices, all events, canceled for House High School. Not heard back from PED by the time staff dismissed, but we did go ahead and pull the trigger on starting that plan. Because we want to maximize the amount of time available to cover our plan. And our plan covers, just as you said, that cleaning. We don't believe there will be an inspection by DOH. Okay. These are measures that we've put in place for well over a year. Cleaning will occur. Our HVAC will continue as it has been. We have, by all accounts, the cleanest air in our classrooms in the state of New Mexico. Okay. The maintenance efforts that our maintenance team goes through, efforts of your teachers to be able to provide remote instruction tomorrow for one day, huge. Their skill set to be able to do that, literally at 3:45 this afternoon, to be able to ready to go at 8:20 tomorrow, is huge. Answer your question of what will happen, I don't know. But what I do know is that I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that you're in class every single day, and that you're provided as much opportunity as you're willing to embrace it. And my goal, to have you back in class on Thursday. That's my goal. EED comes back tonight or tomorrow and says, Gene, that plan doesn't work. Needs to be another day, and we'll adjust. But I want every single one of you back on campus before the weekend. Best case scenario, Thursday morning. That's why we proposed the plan.
Because I know if we go back to doing online schooling, athletes' GPAs will drop a lot because we do not learn online. It is not helpful in what it is from what we are in class. And if their GPAs drop, then they can't play and no sports happen.
Exactly right. We share the same sentiment. I want you back on that marching field on Thursday morning, practicing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to say something to Mrs. Lee. If you actually know of anything that's happening or going on, please contact any of us if you see a problem. Any time of the day or night, like I say, I'm not an internet person, I'm not a Twitter or a Facebook, but I do have a telephone number. The same way with you, Mrs. Jackson. If I can't read my own writing, if you all have problems, like I say, with the kids and the math and what we're doing, you will give any of us on this at the time a call, and we will try our very best to come up with a solution to any problem that our kids are having at the Hobbs Municipal. Appreciate you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. We all share the same concerns that you do. We all do. Okay, is there any other public comment or comment from the board? And we'll move on to the approval of tonight's agenda. If there are any revisions or no revisions, then I would entertain a motion for tonight's agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Regarding the minutes of the regular meeting of July 27th, if there are no revisions or changes, then I would entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Now, presentation for summer graduates. All right.
Mr. President, members of the board, would invite you to come down front and we'll turn it over to Ms. Cooper and Mr. Corbiatis for summer graduates.
You guys probably, the ones that haven't been here before probably thought this is what we wear all the time.
It's a very exciting moment. We're always so thrilled to see our summer graduates come across and finish the credits. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Kurdiatis so we can give these gentlemen some of our admiration.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Strickland, I'd like to welcome every single one of you to the class of 2021 summer graduation. I am very honored to have the responsibility of presenting the class of 2021 to the Haas Municipal School Board members. This is a very special graduation, as it represents a small group of students who made the decision to persevere. They made the decision to come back this summer and take the final steps to finish their coursework and to graduate from Hobbs High School. For the students and the family members who are here, we are honored to share the celebration of achievement with you. Without further ado, Superintendent Parks. Me. Superintendent Chief Swiftman, Board President Jerry Eaton, and members of the school board, these graduates before us have successfully fulfilled all requirements expected of them by both the New Mexico Public Education Department and those requirements established by our school board. For the class of 2021 graduates, please stand up. I'd like to introduce first Bobby Sanchez.
Congratulations, Bobby. Good job.
You know, fist bump. Thank you. Congratulations.
I'm going too far over there. Next graduate, Mr. Luis Esparza. If you'd all join me, please, let's give them a big old round of applause. Graduates, if you would please, move your tassel from the right side to the left side. The world awaits you. And family members and guests, you're more than welcome to stay here for the rest of the school meeting. Or if you'd like, you can go and take pictures outside in front of the Hobbs High School, in front of our campus. That way you can enjoy time with your family. Thank you all so very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Get your coat on under all that.
I know.
Oh,
Burning up. Thank God.
I know, I was beginning to get hot.
Joe was gonna be so long-winded. I should have known. Huh? Good move, Debbie.
Debbie would never turn it to 65. I hate they all got out of here before we got a chance to say a little bit about those kids that really, sometimes they're half a credit or a credit short. You know what I mean? Some of them just give up, but those of them that, like you said, that persevere and come on through, you know, we enjoy this. And I want to ask, what does the number come up to now? 607? 16?
Total number for the graduation for the summer was 608.
Wow. Appreciate knowing that.
Ms. Weldy, how many do you have? Yeah. That's gonna be a long day.
There comes a point when you have a morning graduation and an afternoon graduation.
Yeah.
A snack and a lunch and a nap. in between. That's great news. Yes. Okay. 850. Freshmen. Numbers I've never heard of an experience. It's wonderful. It really is. You know. All right. Well, I guess we're ready to move on to instruction.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, I bring for your information tonight our summer school report. We have several. I'm going to take them in little sections because many of our principals who helped with the summer school programs are here tonight as well. So I'd like to recognize those who were able to come. Our first one was Kids College. These were K through 4th graders. We had 899 students that we served. We did it a little different this year. We were at 4 locations. And I'm glad Mrs. Rhodes showed up for this report, especially tonight, as her parting achievement of summer school. We really appreciate that. On average, we usually have around 650 to 700. So our 899 was a great increase, plus the different locations were also useful. So I will ask that for the Broadmoor School, which serves Sanger, Coronado, and Will Rogers, we had 2 principals who divided the time. Mrs. Everhart, if you'd stand when I call your name, and Mrs. Saldana. They did a great job. And just stand for just a minute, okay? College Lane served Mills and Stone besides their own population, and that was Susan Flowers and Angela Beza. I made it. So far, so good, 100%. Okay, all right, good. All right, Murray Elementary served Edison, Jefferson, and Taylor, and Mrs. Randall. She took care of that whole thing by herself. Southern Heights had Mrs. Armandaris and Mr. Sims. Good job, elementary. So for remain standing for just a minute in case we have a question. This year, we tested kids, looked for those who were 2 years or more behind, and really sent invitations for them to be a part of the summer school program. Others were also there, but we really targeted on those. We used the Exact Path, which was a software program, but they were in person. And it was enriched by 21st Century, who also, they had classes for the kids to attend that wasn't just academic all the time. Although they were academic focused, it was very activity based. And so the kids seemed to really enjoy that time. This one is hard to tell gains when you're looking at the charts. If you're looking at those charts for math and ELA, I mean for math and reading and language arts, because the Exact Path program tests the kids, put them where they needed to be, and then worked them from there. So you worked, everyone was on an individual scale of what they were doing. So it's hard to see, except to see that a whole lot of skills were mastered. A lot. Okay, any questions for any of our principals?
So when you said you tested them before it started and then kind of after, is that kind of because of COVID that we did this to try to get them caught up for what they lost?
All of our
Which one?
summer school focused on trying to close the gap.
Yeah.
Whether it was a skill recovery or whether it was, as you're going to hear on the next school, the next middle school, on front loading of some skills. But all of it was focused on trying to close that.
Thank you.
Okay, y'all got off me.
You know, we learned it during the all district meeting that it's good to be here when your name is called.
Bathroom break's good.
Oh, was that his excuse?
Yes.
All right, if you'll scroll down on your report to the second page, we're going to look at Eagles Academy. And this was for the first time we had fifth graders go up to the middle school. Highland housed all of these, but they came from all of the middle schools. The fifth graders, sixth graders, and seventh graders were there. And Mr. Haggerty, if you would please stand up for us. He had 200 to 251 who attended throughout the 3 weeks. His was a front loading. You can see down at the bottom for math and English, they had some great gains from their pre-test to their post-test, which was teacher created. And he's going to explain to you in just a minute a little bit more about front loading. But on the average in the years past, we started out with about, and this was Mr. Haggerty telling me today, so I'm repeating his words, about 150 enrolled, and by the end we'd have about 60. This year, the 251 stayed engaged and stayed in attendance. And he can talk a little bit about front loading and some of the enrichment classes that helped them to do that.
Board. We need a new direction. Well, I've been doing always kind of try to catch the kids up. How many? All right. Set up, unload the information. So we put standards out that the great those skills and vocabulary, about those in the class application of those skills. Third class was in trauma or our numbers this year were phenomenal. We never had that. Day throughout. Well, for free breakfast and lunch. Busing. A lot of kids rode the buses. A lot of kids. Yeah. I think we had to eat this A really growth that they did and what happened with the art. Back to the company role, I look back over our previous books. We never had that person. Take the class. We really did, even these kids that we struggled, trouble with it. They're on the last day or something. I think qualified successful.
Well, they probably starved just to be around their friends and socialize.
Absolutely. That's a bonus.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The next one, if you'll turn, if you're scrolling to the third page, is something new that Mr. Barrow put together. As you can see, he was instrumental in many things on the secondary side, but this one was, I believe, if I may say, your baby, Mr. Barrow, the A2S1. And this was available for 8th through 10th grade students who wanted to take classes in math. You can see them listed there in the chart, and you can see how well they did. 65 students took advantage of that. Would you mind to stand, Mr. Barr? And was there anything you would like to add for the board about that program, since it was our first time?
President, just wanted to accelerate their math achievement. So basically, will be young plus years of had algebra one for that's still a grade. Also, you can get one to achieve your calculus. And I was amazed at our kids' resilience, because he was 23 days of high school year of math. Okay. Often removed material, rigorous, and kids were able to prepare. So I was really good.
Wow. Worked them hard. Yeah. Kind of like summer school in college. They cram it down your throat. don't
I'm
they?
telling you, that's right.
And Miss Wadi was very great. Just to really just
Thank you.
Next, Mrs. Weldy. She create another new summer opportunity this year was for 8th graders to be on the freshman campus during CSI Eagle Camp. And she had 69 students who took advantage of that. Not only were they looking, you can see the pre-test, post-test results, were they looking at skills, but also they did some CSI activities, which I'd like her to just briefly tell us a little bit about what kids were able to experience during the CSI camp.
Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Strickland. Our students had a great time this summer. We were able to front load activities in biology using forensic biology. They solved cases. The missing mascot, I can tell you that the culprit was just north of us, I believe, a blue school. Our students had a great time. They also had math games and puzzles that they did. They plotted the charts where the body was found and different things going in with our activities. Mr. Caney was gracious enough, came and spoke to us about the CTE school and the opportunities that would be out there. We had community members come in from the fire department, the police department, SWAT team, several businesses, spoke to them not only about college opportunities, but also the opportunities that Mr. Caney will be providing on our campus. So, we incorporated all of the front loading skills with community and school culture, and it has paid dividends. Our students had a great time, had a good experience, and they came in tenfold more comfortable and experienced with what the freshman life would be like.
We were very appreciative when Mrs. Weldy called ahead of time to tell us the SWAT team was there. Thank you.
Yeah.
All
Thank you.
right. Next is high school credit recovery. Mr. Fouts and Mr. Ayers are both here to talk about the credit recovery program. We've had a credit recovery program for several summers, and as you can see, what we count in credit recovery is completions, credit completions. So that's why the number is 1,616 for this summer. But Mr. Ayers went back and counted for me today, bless your heart, that was approximately 618 students who attended for credit recovery. In the past, we've had 416 and 320 in the last 2 years before that. So 618 was quite an increase for that. And we were thrilled with that. You can see that the course completion percentages for last year, they're broken down by class, how the seniors did, how the juniors, sophomores, and freshmen did. And those are fairly high. And then the last part of that chart is comparison of last year with previous years. So we felt like we had a little glitch there when we changed programs the year before last with that 38%. But we're right back up there with lots of credit recovery now in the summer courses. So if you have questions for Mr. Fouts or Mr. Ayers.
Thank you.
Good job. All right, Miss Wendy Hagerton, if she would stand up, she put together our Learning on the Go this year. This was where you could go onto the site, click on a calendar and have activities that you could do and that didn't require you to be on campus anywhere. So we appreciated that. It was for K through 12th graders. And it was a little hard to track this year. This was our first time. So I'm going to have her explain what clicks mean when we say we had 220.
When CAI started, President, members of the board, when CAI started to track this, it was about a week or two into it already. And really all they could do was look and see how many calendar that we have. Because all of the activities we have for the students do not require any kind of logging in. There's nothing, the quizzes they have to do, it was all just work that they could go on. Level, see what they were going to do in their grade level, maybe what the next. It was more of just that one calendar we had in. That's what it. About 120 total within the 2 months. About 20 days. Was open to anybody outside of hospitals that knew about it. They could also.
Was new for us this year. We had a lot of new things. And then the last one will be Mrs. Engel, her special education summer camp. And this one was different because usually we have extended school year for those students whose IEP requires that for them. And that can range from 5 to 10 kids, or resource kids would just be in our regular summer school numbers for them. But this year they did the camp, and you'll see 151 out of the 315 referrals for the all that word. This camp wasn't extended school. Recovery camp. Thank you. I should have remembered that from high school. Okay. Recovery camp. And that was a great turnout. So has a question about that?
That's a terrific number.
Yeah.
Yeah. As we, as a general rule, didn't get really good participation when it was just extended school year. Okay, good.
President, if I may, I'd like to really comment on summer school, summer programming. As it's been said, summer 21 was the most robust summer programming in the history of house schools. Look at the numbers that we've been able to really communicate I don't think tells the full story. What we think will happen is we'll see that full story at that first reporting period. And those kids that may have struggled prior year are more prepared for that. Those kids that may not assimilate into that school environment make that transition easier and quicker and are able to be more successful within their current school year. And so Amy Rhodes is here and elementary principals and all of the administrators and organizers really had a hand in summer school this year. I want you to know they virtually had no break. They went straight from the end of school on May the 28th into summer school and worked greatest majority of June. Those. And then by the time they got out of that, it was time for them to report back to campus. And I can't tell each of them how much I appreciate that. I can tell you that the impact that you make on kids will pay dividends far beyond what you saw in each and every day and what we see in these reports. And so thank you for me. I know that our kids are better off for it. Good job. Good job.
You know, the summers seemed like it was, you know, when you weren't going through school, you had 3 months off for summer. Well, this year you probably had 2 if you took advantage of all of it. Y'all that did work in summer school, you had maybe a month to do some things.
Maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Now that's why I said maybe. Yeah. Thank you for all the hard work you did.
The next one, Mr. President, members of the board, is going to be about our 21st century after-school program grant application. This year, for the first time, all submissions were done electronically. This grant, we had it originally for 5 years and then they extended a year. So, but this summer, it was time to submit again. And the grant itself ended up being over 500 pages that we were sending electronically to the State Department for our application. And Amanda White and worked very hard on that with her coordinators and with other directors, and even with a grant writer that worked with 4 districts on this. When the grant was submitted electronically, there was a glitch. And so, and can you imagine with that many pages? So 2 of the pages did not make it where they needed to be. And that is a disqualification when you're submitting an application. So they call it a non-response. Thank you. A non-response to our grant application. Mr. Strickland and I met with Mr. Ledgerwood. You may remember that he was here and he's now at the State Department over all of these grants. And he explained all of this to us about the glitch, that we weren't the only district, and that they did have an alternative plan for us if we wanted to proceed down that path, and that is to become a subcontract to the New Mexico State University 21st Century Grant. They did receive, their application was approved, and we can become a part of the districts that they serve. So once again, we had a phone call, Mr. Strickland and myself, with Wanda, who runs their program, and I cannot remember her last name. Do you? Okay, we just called her Wanda, I think. And her staff, and we visited about what would that look like. Now, everyone's who received the applications, funding was cut, so they did not get full funding. But she said they were more than willing to take us on at partial funding for what we had applied for. And so we will be working with them under their grant, which means we do everything we ever did before. But instead of sending all of that to the state, we send it to New Mexico State University, who sends it, then they're reporting in So we are working towards that, but it's been quite a process. Most of this has just occurred within the past week. So we did get an email out finally to staff telling them we will begin an after-school program. We are trying for the day after Labor Day, which will be September 7th. We are going to do our best to be ready by then. We've done the visiting. We're going to hold a meeting this Thursday with all of the schools, which every school now qualifies for this grant. So we're adding schools on top of what we were doing before. And we will do then for the new coordinators and new schools coming on the next Thursday, we'll do a little training with them, some of the reporting requirements. So I just wanted to update you on that. I'm sure you may have been hearing. Parents I know are waiting on us to start, but we've had to wait on getting information ourselves.
A familiar situation.
Yeah, very much.
Unfortunate there was a glitch when you were trying to upload it, but that happens, and it's fortunate that there's another alternative.
Yes, we felt very, very grateful for an opportunity like that, because usually it's one in and you're done.
Mhm.
And we thought that's what would happen, but we have been given this opportunity, intend to take advantage of it.
Good. Okay. Any other questions of Ms. Cooper? Here,
Thank you.
thank you. Ready to move on to human resources, Mr. Young, human sources. Horses, yeah. No, I didn't say horses.
Oh, okay.
Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Strickland. Before I get to my report, I want to go back to summer school real quick and also point out a very important person in that process, and that's Carrie Gray for staff. In about a 3-week turnaround, conducting interviews, recommendations, setting out contracts, setting up payroll. It was like basically hiring a school district the size of Brownfield. That Carrie Gray and her staff did an excellent job of getting all that paid on time. They did a great job. So, besides our principals or teachers, it's really a true team effort. So I'll bring to you the HR report, certified employment. We have 27 certified staff there before you, all coming from various degrees of experience, from 0 years up to 23 years of experience. Teachers, I'm very pleased to have them on board. On classified employment, you'll see there 41 positions were filled last board meeting. Many of those are paraprofessional or nutritional services members that went Hobbs schools, also security and PALs, parent assistant liaison are included on that. On certified resignations, we did have 5 certified positions since the last board meeting that have decided to end their employment here in Hobbs or not return. Talking with Mr. Hawkins, he said that's not unusual. Last second, I'm not going to start or have started, and then have either through transfers of their spouses or found other employment out of education. Classified resignations, we do have 12 on those. Many of those are, again, paraprofessionals or services positions. Certified retirements, we had 0, so there's not a report on that, but we do have a classified retirement. Mr. Haggerton's a long time assistant over at Highland, 40 years of service.
Wow.
And Cabasas. That's a lot of years of wisdom and experience. She's decided to retire, and we wish her the very
She actually probably ran the school.
For many principals.
That's right. Yeah, we'll miss her.
Entertain any questions from the board?
She was a former student too.
God bless you. Oh, my gosh.
She probably worked for the schools when she was a student.
He was kindergarten, I think.
I have no questions. Thank you. Okay. Ready to go to operations.
Where we have a seat tonight. Catching us up on some projects. He started all these things, so he had to get them complete before we turned him loose.
Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Strickland. Yes, I did want to finish one thing at least. But I get the privilege of talking about $68 million worth of fun stuff when you think about Hobbs School, still building, still pushing forward, very proud of where we're at. Contracted summer projects. 2 months ago, I proudly said we were going to complete $2 million worth of work over a summer, and we got really, really close. We got really, really close. Mark Kirby, our director of maintenance, did a wonderful job of trying to organize what was essentially 2 years worth of work. If it wasn't for nationwide shipping and manufacturing, I think we'd have made it. It wasn't due to a lack of planning. It was simply a lack of some things that didn't get here and still aren't here. And so I'll kind of go over the successes and a little bit of the things that we're still lacking. We'll go quickly here. Booker T, almost entirely complete. Mr. Sims is here. As of Wednesday, the turf had not been installed around the playground. Is it in? Not yet. So we've got the playground equipment, but we're waiting on the turf that goes around it. College Lane, that project is complete. One of the things you'll see on College Lane, and you'll see that on all of our kitchen projects, is hot carts. So we're replacing the new carts in those kitchens. We have operable carts right now, just upgrading with the new carts. Those will all be in by the end of the month in place. But our kitchens are just food coming out of them. Our kids are eating. Edison is finished. Hobbs High School is finished. Houston, we are waiting on the manufacturer actually to finish the upgrades to the elevator. The elevator is operable. It's still being used. Our kids can go up and down to the second floor at Houston. It's just time for an upgrade and we're waiting on that. Mills is finished as far as the kitchen part. Sanger, we're waiting on shelving, manufacturing delays. We expect mid-September there. Stone, everything is finished. Once again, waiting on hot carts. Will Rogers, everything is finished except for, and you'll see another trend here, doors. Whatever reason, we quit assembling doors. So we have a bunch of doors coming to about 3 elementary schools. And we'll install those as soon as they get in. So for whatever reason, there was a hiccup to our doors. Floor stripping. All right, so I kind of like the puzzle here. 12 schools received a brand new, we brought a company in, and I don't know if you got any phone calls. The company was called Germ Blast. And so it was really just stripping floors, but people thought there were some bad things going on in those schools. All right, that was just the company. But 12 schools received that service. The 4 schools that didn't, Murray, Broadmoor, they have the new floors. Okay, and then Edison and Will Rogers, we didn't strip their floors because they got new floors. All right, so all of our schools were addressed as far as the floors for this year. So like I said, really, really close to completing it. We expect most of that to be complete as soon as we get doors in. Capital outlay. Capital outlay, I'm just going to brag. Right now, our technology folks are probably still at the training center. All right, did a little last minute call to high school students. Any high school student who did not have a computer, we reached out to them in a note and said, come by and get your laptop. All right, so they were up there. They're still up there now. They've currently handed out over 20 laptops to any high school student who didn't have one. So far, they've given out 9,222 devices to students at Hobbs Municipal Schools. That's a lot of devices. All right, just in the last 2 weeks, they gave out, let me do some quick math, 1,323 devices. So just in this last 2 weeks, this big push as kids started to come back. So really proud of the opportunities we're giving our students in that. We move through that list real quick. Furniture, we did run into some hiccups on podiums that were ordered. We're just waiting to receive those. But for the most part, our furniture will be in, and we will have put almost $330,000 in furniture back into our classrooms for our kids to have a good learning environment this year. Any questions on capital outlay and building projects? I went fast. I don't know if I made it in 5 minutes, Dixie, but no, I didn't.
If it was just doors and hot carts that you haven't gotten.
Doors, hot carts, and a little bit of the turf that goes around the playground areas.
That's not bad,
I think we did pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
given the fact that you can't find a lawnmower.
A car.
I can't find, a car. Computer chips, had to wait 8 months for my refrigerator, so there you go.
Yes, we're happy with where we got.
Could have
So
been so much worse. You couldn't have been sitting around like this because nothing showed up.
a lot of work got done. A lot of work got done. So speaking of a lot of work, the last time I visited with you guys, that was our up-to-date picture. All right, and that's our current CTEC. All right, if you look at it now, all right, you can see
Look at
that
that.
you can't see through it anymore. All right, unless you go to a window. I did want to dispel a misconception real quick. The building is not gold. Okay, get the phone call, get the question a lot. What that gold color is simply water sealant that goes around the brick.
Who wouldn't mind if it was?
Do what?
Who wouldn't mind if it was?
It's a little bold, all right, but yeah, so the building is not gonna be gold. So if you go to the next picture, all right, you'll actually get to see, so on that corner, that's what it's actually gonna look like. Okay, so that's the exterior brick that's going up right now. All right, so it's gonna be a much darker color, not gold. There will be gold staircases and there'll be plenty of black and gold in there, just not the outside of the building. Next slide, please. Because we live in the tropical rainforest of Hobbs, not having windows has been an issue. And so we've seen a lot of water being swept out of that building recently. But this is good news. That picture right there actually shows you what's about to be the framing around some windows. Okay, so we're gonna start to see windows going, and windows is gonna make that place have a little bit of shine and a little bit of glimmer. So I'm excited about that. The next picture to test y'all. All right, you guys were sitting there at one point. Everybody tell me what you think that is.
Where or what?
You
You know
don't
those
get a point.
things they used to have at Anthony's and you would. Shoot.
At the bank?
Yeah. And you get change.
That's why I asked, because I just wanted to know what you'd say. Those are for our welders. All right, so that's going to be our exhaust system. So what you're looking at right there is our welding shop. Right, so if you go in there right now, you can see the inner workings of that building, and it's pretty darn cool. Upstairs, all right, so where that picture was taken, I would have been standing in what is going to be the upstairs kitchen cafe area. And I'm looking down and you can start to see the rooms taking shape. If you walk in there now, you will see all the rooms that are going to exist in that facility. So they're framed and you can see where the windows are going to be. You can get a general layout of what those rooms are. What you can't see in the pictures is the process that's happening behind the scenes. Today, Doug didn't get to present this because it's next month, but we hired a diesel teacher today. All right, we hired an energy teacher. We couldn't be happier because the process that's happening is sequencing our courses, matching our equipment up to the curriculum, and to have people who have that expertise in that field to be able to say, we want this, we want that. So we feel very blessed to be able to get these two online right now to help us with two programs that currently don't exist at Hobbs High School. So we're building that one from scratch. So we have two experts who get to help us with that. So it's a great day today to be able to make those hires. And Every Wednesday, what you'll see is we're meeting with current staff and new staff for our PLC process with CTEC. And we'll begin that process of that collaboration and building that team from this year to next year as we continue to go. So any questions on CTEC before we hand it over? Very excited to introduce Mr. Frank Mackey. Okay, if you don't know Frank has came on and he's going to be doing projects for us. Frank had the privilege of meeting with the Southern Heights team today. And so I'm going to let Frank talk about our other big project that's happening, and that's Southern Heights Elementary. So Frank Mackey.
President, members of the board, and distinguished guests.
And undistinguished.
I didn't meet with the committee today. It's actually tomorrow, but anyhow, I do want to give you an update. The design is coming along quite well. We'll be getting the design development package, which is that middle design phase, next week. We did receive the state PSFA approval for the schematic design, so that's moving ahead. And with the design development package, we'll be getting some colored renderings now of the building and the site all together. Those will be on boards here next week. We left at the central office, so you can look at that. We'll also have a updated cost estimate. Because currently we're about $2 million over the budget. So to analyze this design development package, the architect is preparing some value engineering options. This will not decrease the program requirements and decrease the square footage. It will only give us options for finishes, paving options, and landscaping. We'll have that to review.
So is it the cost of materials going up that's caused the budget to go up? Or is it
Probably.
What now?
Is it the cost of materials going up causing the budget? Go up?
Well, we're picking on materials primarily because we have a range of medium, good, and really nice materials. We don't want to reduce the classroom areas or anything like that. Cutting out square footage is always one way to cut costs, but that's not the direction we're taking.
Real quick, let me add. We did also increase this program by 4 classrooms of what the award is. Now 4 additional spaces. So kind of balancing in between both of those. I will say the budget is what the budget is through the PSFA award. However, our bond election was to fund that at a larger rate, anticipating increased costs and anticipating an increased program. So yes, we have the PSFA budget, but we also have some district contingency out of our on sale. Help with that. We still want to identify those value engineers.
That's where I was going.
Yes, sir.
I
We
was
don't want to
concerned.
go,
I don't want to value engineer something out. 'cause
Yeah.
Value engineering scares me.
We want
That
to
means
get
you're
the
cutting
best
somewhere.
value for the district.
and we certainly don't want to go cheap.
No.
Cheap is the roof leaks, the soap containers break.
Mr. President, Ms. Hamilton, one thing that we've kind of adopted over the last 10 years in terms of construction is, I think the fancy term is we want to be state of the art. We got to realize these are schools that we expect to, well, in Hobbs, those schools are reaching life expectancy of 80 years. And so the theme that we've adopted is, while state of the art is nice, we need them to be solid state.
Yeah.
We need them to last the best of time.
How old is Southern Heights?
81. 81. 81.
Wow.
Okay.
Southern Heights, my apologies. I was thinking as. Yeah, it's not 81. You're correct.
Still, that's
How old is it?
71.
It's your first year teaching there?
I do think my husband went to kindergarten there.
So as mentioned, we'll have our last committee meeting tomorrow. We design again. Then we will organize some meetings with the city, fire marshal, police department, as well as our CAI group, so we can get everybody's eyes looking at this, make sure everything is safe and secure. The construction documents should be done middle of November. So that would put the bidding in December, then award in January, then a notice to proceed in March 22. February. That will take us to March of 2023 to get the building essentially substantially complete so that we can test out the systems, move in the furniture. At that point, then they will start tearing down the old school, do all the site work on the north end of where the building is. So that by July of 2023, the entire site will be ready. Occupied. Other than that, it is moving along pretty good. We do have a new PSFA representative as of today. So she's already taken the reins on some of the other projects that we're working on. So that's good. PSFA is adding people to their staff, so the regional managers aren't so overworked. We're looking forward to working with her.
And I think it's going to put a lot of pride. I think it's going to make the neighborhood or the area a little bit better. I'm just excited, and I'm glad that you guys are. I'll be long gone, but you guys will be there. So, but it's exciting, especially when you told the parents. We told the parents that we're building a new school, and then the way that you work with the teachers and the staff and all that kind of stuff. That's neat. It's not our deal; it's their deal because they're there. Yeah.
Thank you, Frank.
I'd also like to kind of give you an update on two other projects, Mills Elementary, the site improvements. We did not do that construction, obviously, this past summer, which gives us more time now to get Sarah involved. Sarah's the new PSFA rep. And we do have the design development package into PSFA. I've talked with Todd Randall, so we'll be meeting with him next week. Get his input, specifically where the dumpster is located in the alley. And then we can get the procurement documents ready for a January bid, and again, get that started early so we can get a lot of the fencing and site work that's not where the buses are dropping off or the parents are dropping off. That site work done during school so that during next summer, it can bang out, important parts that are completed. That's moving forward. And then lastly, the logo for the window behind you, the glass is now in town. And so I'll be meeting with Lasco tomorrow to get a schedule for that window. And by the time you meet next month, it will be in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Continue with the operations, Mr. President, members of the board. I have for your consideration a air quality grant as provided by the New Mexico Public Education Department. You'll remember back in school year 2021, all districts were required to meet air quality standards within their classrooms. I can tell you that Hobbs Schools was the first in the state to have MERV 13 in every single space. We have maintained that. In addition to MERV 13 filters, we increased our replacement cycle. Before, we were replacing every 90 days. Whether they needed or not, we now replace those filters every 60 days. Last year, we were not funded for that upgrade. We can have sour grapes about it if we want, but however, it did provide a better place for our kiddos, for staff. And moving forward into this year, they did offer blanket awards to school districts across the state. That number for Hobbs Schools is just north of $74,000, $76,000, which I did sign with intent to accept. And what we will do is we will use that to help offset the cost of that filter increase that we see for maintenance agreement.
Did I read that it was around 120,000 different?
It was.
Okay.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. It was an increase to our maintenance agreement of about $120,000.
Is those new filters, of course, it's harder to move air through them. I know that. Have we noticed an increase in our utility bill because of that?
I think that's an unfair question right now. And the reason I say that is we're seeing an increase in our utility bills regardless. And I talked to Excel Energy actually last night at the city commission meeting. We all should anticipate an increase in our utility costs. Because what Excel Energy is doing is when the price of natural gas went from $36 per MCF back in the great cold spell of 2020, $3,600 MCF. Excel chose to eat that cost and spread that cost out over 2 years rather than hit customers immediately to recoup that cost. So we are seeing an increase in our utility costs. One thing that we haven't been able to study yet, or that we haven't studied, quite honestly, is the usage. So that's one thing that we can dive into with Sean Drake is if we're using more energy, if our fans are running longer, that's the case, then that would communicate absolutely an exponential growth in utility costs.
Well, it's
We do
not,
believe our base rate is going, we know our base rate is going up.
I was just curious. I don't need you to do a bunch of
No.
research to tell me, answer that.
I do. No. Because I want to know if if there's some government monies out there, like they do for asbestos removal,
Oh,
you understand what I'm saying? And so, if we have a clean air initiative through, what's Johnson's wife name? That they started the New Mexico Clean Air Act
Okay.
on her behalf. It was several years ago, and it went into the apartment. And it all had to do with people that smoke. So it encouraged people that own the apartments to not have anybody in the apartment smoking. There was monies and grants there. They literally had to smoke outside. They had provided them barrels that had dirt in them and things of that nature. And you were gonna be fined heavily if they went in there and found them smoking. And what I was doing for the state, and we were doing something I was doing something with the kids with the no smoking. That's how I got in on that. But there is a Johnson, whatever, Governor Johnson's wife was, it's the Clean Air Act that's named after her that you might look into and might have some money there.
You seek your approval on that. Acceptance of that grant.
So moved.
Go ahead.
We have a motion.
Yeah, to approve the grant.
Second. For the Clean Air, or not the Clean Air Act, for the consideration air quality grant. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. President, next item is the memorandum of understanding between Hobbs Municipal Schools and Team Court of Lee County. This was the item that we discussed back in July. Team Court is using that facility. They speaking with their new executive director on Thursday of last week, they have restarted their cases, had their first official case night, so to speak. Had Ray reviewed, she couldn't have been more pleased with how it went. So I look forward to getting by and not being a defendant, but being able to just be a witness and see how Team Court continues to run, because it does provide our teens of our community a great opportunity, as well as a benefit to parents, not having these insurance costs through a speeding ticket or minor infraction that they may.
Can I go to teen court? Could be in trouble.
You can go as a guest with me if you'd like.
No, I wasn't talking about a guest. I do not speak.
Okay. Okay. So, we're ready for a motion for the
Oh,
teen
so
court
moved.
MOU. Have a motion, then a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Well, the boards had their packet since last week and had an opportunity to review the business side of the school district. And if you had questions with Ms. Gray, I assume they were answered. Ms. Gray.
Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Strickland, who I do look up to just as much as Mr. Park. Just want to get that out there right now. Just kidding. So for your consideration, the expenditures, investment, and then one bar.
If there are no questions, then I would entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That was easy.
And then the quarterly report, just for your information.
Okay. Quarterly report seemed longer than normal. Is that?
But the monthly report was shorter than normal.
Yeah, something. There was a difference. I noticed that. Yeah.
But I think, are you talking about the expenditures report or
Uh-huh.
I think, it's the first of the year, so that we're gonna want supplies. You're probably also seeing some of the first of the year payrolls and things like that. So.
I just know when those of you who don't see these packets, they're like 800 pages to them, so. And we read every bit of it.
Yes, we do. And I just love Blimpo. They're the bread people.
Yeah.
I love that little fat man on the bread package.
Mr. Strickland.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have for your consideration this evening, two different motions with two different groups of policy readings. This is the third and final reading of policies 215, 216, 217, 218, and 219. Advisory 215, policy JFB. It would be my recommendation that we reject that policy advisory as it would completely overhaul and overwrite our current out-of-zone open enrollment system that we maintain.
And I think that's working just fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, I agree.
Terry may not think so.
Oh, well,
It's fine the way we have it.
All right, consideration of the third and final reading of board policies. Now, do we need to reject 215 or just
Yes.
not vote on it?
We would just reject.
Reject it. Okay, I make a motion
Okay,
that we approve policy 215, but exclude JFB. No.
We want to.
We want to exclude 215.
to approve 216, 217, 18.
Oh,
19,
okay.
but
So
not
215 is JFB.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay. I make a motion that we scratch 215 and accept the rest.
216, 217, and 218,
Yes.
and 19. And that's it. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Jones, were you the one that seconded?
Mhm. Motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the board, I have for your consideration the third and final reading of board policies. Advisory number 220, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 227, 228.
And that policy advisory committee has been busy.
Okay, I want to comment on 228. Provided I can find it. Okay. Yeah, it is, but it's. Okay, just a second. Let me do that. Because I have been in situations, and I don't mean to say that any of you guys would do this, okay? Where, let me find it, I'm sorry. This computer and I,
157.
oh, thank you.
You're over 218.
Oh,
228,
228,
Oh, I left you off.
yeah,
210. Each 210.
210.
165.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let me make sure that I know what I'm talking about when I talk about this. Okay. All right. I've been in situations where principals would want the child abuse run by them before it was called in. And that's not the way it works. It's not the way it's designed to work. Certainly, staff needs to give principals heads up. But if you see it, you call it in. If you suspect it, you call it in. If you suspect it, you call it in. We have too many people. No, I shouldn't say that. We have well-meaning people, staff, who worry about calling it in. Don't do that. Just call it in. Okay.
Thank you. Totally agree. Okay.
It's the law.
Have
Okay.
consideration of
220,
the
I make a
final-
motion, we accept 220 through 228.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
President, members of the board, half of your presentation this evening, before we consider the next 3 motions. Brad Angst, Steeple, is that right? Yes, sir. All right, Steeple. You may remember Brad from a former group, George K. Baum.
Yeah.
He is our financial advisor and here to really brief us on our current financial picture and how we go forward to sell those bonds from our bond election back in 2019, pay for Technical Education Center and Southern Heights construction. Right, take it away.
Thank you.
Brad,
Mr.
how are
President,
you?
members of the board, Lieutenant Strickland, it's good to be here. Brad Angst with Stiefel. I serve as the bond advisor for the Hobbs School District. So we have a few resolutions in front of you today. One is to pay off some of your bonds early with surplus revenues. Second is to declare your intent to issue the first tranche of bonds for a lot of the projects that y'all are working on that voters approved. And then lastly is a resolution that details some of the parameters of that type of bond sale. There's some new rules and legislation that allows you to designate and delegate some of your signing authority to the superintendent if you approve that this evening. So I have for you a presentation that goes through some of the background, including your bonding capacity, how we go about calculating these items. One of the
Is on the screens.
Okay.
and I'm on page 4 here. And so one of the main items that we work with you on, in addition to helping raise the funds to pay for your capital projects, is also making sure that you have the funds and the revenue to be able to repay the bonds and do it in a manner that helps manage your tax rate and your mill levy and keep that as consistent as possible and in line with what you represented to your voters back in the election process. And so I'll go through some of this. It's been a couple years since I've done it. On the left-hand side is your tax base. This is the property values and also the oil and gas and mineral values within your school district. And it is this tax base that helps raise the revenue through property taxes in order to repay your capital facilities, your buildings, and the bonds that are used to pay for them. The district, we just got the new valuations here within the last couple of weeks. The last line item there highlighted in yellow. There was a pretty substantial dip in the oil and gas values. They went to 431 million. The previous year, those were at 770 million. That was an anticipated drop based on the price per barrel. But the overall drop in your tax base, when you add in the residential values and the commercial values, went from approximately 1.9 down to 1.5. So it's about a 17% decline. Even with that decline, we're able to fulfill our marching orders to keep the mill levy at a certain level and still raise these funds for you and keep that tax rate steady. Over on the right is some of your statutory bonding capacity. The state of New Mexico says that the Hobbs School District can bond up to 6% of that tax value. Today, that equates to about 93 million. You have not approached that level. You currently have 36 million of bonds outstanding. And then you have another 30 million that voters have approved that you can go and do some additional facilities. So substantial capacity remaining in the future. Moving to the next slide, page 5. We've got to look at some of the historical tax rates and mill levies that have been applied. What we focus on here is a few different items. Of course, the SB 9 and HB 33 mill levies are very important to you. That's for the maintenance of your facilities and some other type of capital purchases. Your voters are considering that right now for a renewal. And then over a little bit more to the right is the GO debt service levy. And this is the tax rate, the mill levy that floats a bit as your tax rate or your tax base goes up and down. We set the appropriate mill levy to bring in that tax revenue to pay off your facility financings. So we've been asked to keep that level at a 5.1 or lower. When you went out to voters recently, you committed to keep that increase with this new bond issue to a 5.1 or less. And so we've been able to structure that, and I'll show you here in just a moment. Next slide, page 7. We've got a look at your debt portfolio and the bonds that you have outstanding currently. You've got 6 bond issues stretching back from 2010 to the last one that we worked on with you, which was actually 2016 now. You'll see that there's some shaded boxes, and every line that you see is shaded is those are bonds that are callable or prepayable. We've intentionally done this. We've tried to leave the district flexibility because of your oil and gas values and the volatility that comes with that. In good years, you collect a lot of times excess revenues that can only be used for one thing, though. When I'm talking about the debt service levy, it can only be used to repay debt service. And so by leaving those different maturities, callable and prepayable, at a later date, we can go and pay some of those down early. It saves you interest cost. So instead of refinancing them into a lower interest rate, we're just paying them off completely, and it stops your interest payments on those. And on the next slide, this is a bar chart that looks at your debt payments. And so this is over the next 7 years, the payments that you have coming due. And so you'll see it drops down a little bit here in the next couple of years. And then in 26, it drops down even more substantially. And then after that, there's no payments. And so what we've been doing over the years is trying to leave you some capacity so that you can layer on those new projects, the financings, without increasing that tax rate. And so with these next bonds, we're going to be able to layer that on and keep your overall payment the same. Okay, so here's the upcoming plan. I mentioned in the opening the payoff. We call these, one more page, please. Thank you. Call these defeasance, and it's just a legal term. It means you're paying off these bond maturities, and the lawyers will come and opine that they are technically off your books. You can take them off your balance sheet, and they are no longer a liability for you. So this year we are looking to pay down approximately 1.5 million of bonds early. And by doing that, we're going to be able to save the district $180,000 in interest cost on just those bonds. And then there's a secondary benefit that comes from this. So you'll see on the bottom right-hand side, there's two arrows there, and that denotes the maturities where we're going to pay bonds down. So by carving out those areas and lowering the debt service in those areas, we're also able to structure the new debt in larger amounts on the front end of your debt portfolio. And so by bringing those closer, you get a lower interest rate. There's less interest costs in the long run on the new bonds as well. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, then moving to the next slide, please. This, I know it's a little bit small, but what we've done is lay out your current debt service on the left-hand side. We then add in the defeasance or the pay down, which reduces your debt service. And then the next three columns show your new money bond issuances, which will be paying for your new facilities, the schools and career tech. And as we do that over the coming next year or two, we show you on the right-hand side in a projected debt service mill levy that we can do this under that 5.1 tax rate mill levy that you all have charged us with keeping it steady. So that is the plan. We are set up here. The next slide shows what happens when we layer everything on and together. We've taken some conservative views on the growth factors over the coming years. We'll also have the next two bond issuances for the remaining 18 million in bonds. We're looking to do 12 million here this fall. We have a chance to fine tune this as your new oil and gas numbers come in, as your new AV comes in, again, with other opportunities to keep that mill levy steady, and then work to get you capacity in the future as you continue to grow, or as maybe you need to upgrade. All right, I'll pause there. Any questions?
Question.
Exactly how I would. That's good. Anytime you can save us some money and do that, we appreciate it. Keep that tax base level.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate it.
With that information, after your consideration, resolution authorizing the redemption and defeasance a portion of the district's general obligation school bond series 2010, authorizing an escrow agreement related to such bonds.
Yes, I make a motion that we approve all of that defeasance.
Second.
Have a motion, then a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next.
Mr. President, members of the board, your next consideration is a resolution of intent to issue $12 million of the Hobbs Municipal School District number 16 general obligation school bonds titled series 2021.
How many millions do we have left?
We'll have 18 million after.
This 12.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve this resolution of intent to issue these $12 million worth of bonds.
We have a motion, then a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
And Mr. President, members of the board, finally, for consideration, resolution authorizing the sale of general obligation school bonds, establishing procedures for the sale and delivery of the bonds, authorizing other matters related to the issuance of the bond.
Absolutely. I'll make that motion.
Okay. I will second. We have a motion, then a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, spending all that money out of the way, let's just go on to enrollment update.
Mr. President, members of the board, the next item is really information, it's an enrollment update, and those are coming down the table. I will tell you that starting and having 9 days in the books, it's a welcome sight to see kids in hallways. It's a welcome sight to see teachers in classrooms. It's a welcome sound to see kids on the playground. It may not be as welcoming to get stuck in traffic in the morning. But that tells us that the right things are happening. And so as we look at our enrollment, you can see I've really provided you a couple different snapshots. On the far left is 2008, 2009 numbers of the first 20 days. And then I jumped to 2017, 18. And you can see that number through 2020, 21. You can see the impact that COVID had. And quite honestly, the level of restrictions that we experienced last year as a school district. We all knew that, we all experienced that. It had a significant impact to us. Moving forward into this school year, actually, we finished the school year with about 9,600 students in May of 2021. We have projected to have 10,000 students. As you can see right now, that number today was 10,009. One thing that will happen actually tomorrow evening, beginning that, we will begin to call out those non-attendants or non-door uppers. Those that hadn't been here yet, that either said they were going to attend or completed the registration and didn't show up. We'll begin to remove them from our roll, just as we do every year. That really gives us a true, how many whites of the eyes we have in our classrooms. So we'll provide this typically through the 40th day, and we actually maintain it every single day throughout the school year. But attendance enrollment is, I think, better than what we had expected. It's good to see that number in 10,000.
Those kids miss being in school. We may not have an attendance problem this year.
And in something I will report that this afternoon I met with a group of our aspiring administrators, and that was one of their comments, was that this individual was on a campus that regularly engaged in those attendance visits last spring and last fall. He goes, "We're not having an attendance problem. Those kids are coming to school, they're engaged in the material." Well, that was one of the celebrations that we shared. So
That's great.
with that, stand for any questions.
I have a question, and probably a dumb question. So when on
Oh,
these
good.
days that you take attendance, if they're homesick with COVID or something and you're not there, does that reflect in the count?
Oh, these are enrolled.
So this is just enrollment.
Okay,
Mr. President. Yeah.
All right, I have no more questions. Okay, thank you. So, looks like we're ready to adjourn into executive session. Are we still on for executive session? Okay.
I make a motion that we move into executive session. Pursuant to the Open Meetings Act.
Okay. It is 8:02. We have a motion and a second to go into executive session. I'm going to take a roll call. Mr. Calderon.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Ms. Appleton.
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank y'all for attending.
Y'all understand?
You're welcome to stay.
My back was vibrating there.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to return to regular session. Mr. Calderon,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Ms. Appleton,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Is there
Let me
any,
just say that no, in the executive session, who was limited on to specific, the earlier motion, no, about pending litigation, no action was taken.
okay, we have a motion and a second. But no action was taken in executive session. Mr. Calderon,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Ms. Appleton,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Go to announcements.
Mr. President, members of the board, one thing you don't see on there is our closure of Hobbs High School that will be in effect for tomorrow, August 18th, 2021, as a result of Hobbs High receiving their 4th rapid response as defined by the New Mexico Department of Health. We have communicated to parents and students that closure. We got this met with staff at the end of the day today, talk about that remote model for tomorrow. Again, as I previously shared, it's our hope that our students are only out of campus tomorrow only. With the disinfectant and sanitation schedule beginning tonight, carrying through tomorrow into tomorrow night, ready for instruction on Thursday. As soon as I hear from Public Education Department, we will update that plan. Other announcements. Board positions 1 and 5 to declare at the county clerk's office on August 24th at 5 p.m. Ms. Appleton, hope you have a carpool plan. Also on the same day, that is the due date for our special election that is ongoing. I did not receive an update today from Sandoval of the county clerk's office, but as of Friday, we had 1,800 ballots that have been returned.
Ooh. Now, will you go up and certify it that night?
So the new election law, Ms. Appleton, doesn't have me do that.
Oh,
If the ballots will be opened after 5 p.m. They will be scanned at that point and tabulated, and then the next step, it will go to the county commission. Their canvas.
oh. We have a connection.
Yep, you do. Yep. Have a special meeting.
So when will we know?
So we will know soon after that, that tabulation. Hopefully we'll know that evening. I don't know that they'll let me hang out in the courthouse, but I'm gonna do my best to be there and be present, so we know those results. And I'll visit with Mr. Maine to see what we can do in terms of preliminary information. What we do know is any ballots that are received via mail or hand delivery after 5 p.m. on the 24th will not be counted. So we continue to get the word out. Oh, turn your ballot, return your ballot, return your ballot. So 1,800, I felt like was a good number. Typically in a general election, we don't see that many in-person ballots cast.
No.
So or you don't know is you don't know what's inside that ballot right now.
Yeah, that's my concern. Yeah.
I think we'll be okay.
I got the letter from the county. I think she told me it's from the state, said that my ballot was undeliverable. But I get the letter to say that it's undeliverable. I said, well, if y'all can deliver this letter, how not get my ballot? So I wish she sent me another one, but I did get something to vote with, but I'm an awesome, just, I don't know who, or what, but anyway, I have proof now when I take it to the post office that I had a letter that said it was undelivered. I missed the wedding, I missed money, I missed a whole bunch of things, the stuff that needs to comes to my house, it won't come, and then it won't go to my boxes. They told me to wrap it up, they told me to put no delivery on it. All they do is take it over there to my neighbors or something. So I didn't have a dilemma with them. So I hope people got their ballots. I said I was gonna put up a sign or something in front of my house, please go vote. But I talked to several people, and everybody I talked to, if they've gotten a ballot, I've asked them to return it.
But we do know that people were still receiving ballots as of, what did it say, Amy said Saturday? Had her ballot on Saturday.
Oh, really?
So
Yes, Saturday. I was like, oh my gosh.
Huh. Well,
They were
maybe
all
it's
supposed to
because
go
my
out at the same
last name
time.
starts with A. I got mine early.
Labor Day holiday is September 6th. It's hard to believe that is 3 weeks away. We'll have no school on September the 6th. Parent teacher conference is September 16th, that Wednesday, no school for students. And I can imagine as the conditions warrant, we will be prepared to make adjustments to those, if those are virtual or what they may be. As that day approaches, we'll have a regular board meeting on September 1st, 2021.
Do y'all want to hear, I always say this every year, September 16th, my parents will have been married 71 years.
Oh, my
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
Well, you have a birthday coming up too.
November.
Okay. I'm-
Her
I'm
birthday's
coming up.
November, so is mine. You know them boys.
We're
We don't have to have a
Scorpios.
cake.
I
Yeah.
know, buttercream frosting.
Yeah.
Mr. President, one other announcement I did put on here is Hobbs Fire Department is going to host a memorial walk or stair walk on September 11th, which is the 20th anniversary of September 11th. And they're encouraging the community to participate. Funds will go to support, I think, that escapes me. But they are going to use Watson Stadium. They're going to host them on that event. Allow them to break that on September 11th.
I just have a comment, and I just want to say to you guys, Gary and to Eugene, that out of a lot of meetings that I've attended, I really appreciate the leadership and the way that you handle things. We've had some presidents that think, well, we're not gonna let everybody talk. No, you need to let people talk. You need to let them express what they have to say. And I love that we respond to them, but we continue to, I try to listen and write it down and say, give us a call, give somebody a call. Just let somebody know. Don't just think you're out there alone in the world that we don't care, because we do. So I appreciate you guys.
Thank you. All right. Anything else? It's 9:29 and we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
This is the longest board meeting I have attended in my
Hey, can we
8
have
years.
a region meeting coming up too?
27th.